Winter is coming. And the wall is undefeated.
I need y'all to like the video, comment if you want, but turn your post notifications on so you know the next time I drop. Up next, we got another one with Ask a Brother podcast where he's letting the ladies know, hey, winter is here and the wall is undefeated. Check it out.
I've talked about it because women will not punch down, right? Pretty much, right? But men will. Men will.
What he mean by punch down is women ain't gonna take a nigga out of poverty and bring him into prominence, but a man will. That levies the game. But women, they don't do math, they only do girl math, so that ain't gonna make sense to them.
And they will absolutely not pursue for marriage, but for a fling, for a short term, they will go down just because maybe low hanging fruit, less of a hassle or whatever. And they're not very honest with these women. And I think we're doing ourselves an absolute disservice by doing that, because now once a woman gets a taste of that, that's her speed.
Correction, that's her perceived speed. Her actual speed is some other totally type of nigga that's probably working at Walmart or some shit like that. But her perceived speed, the speed that she lied to herself about, is the nigga that's reaching down and bringing her up into prominence.
And she thinks that that's what she's supposed to be dealing with from now on.
That's not her level.
Right.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
keyword, she thinks, but thoughts are often wrong.
That's not it. Whereas if I went and I caught a baddie, a dime that particular night, I already know, damn, I got that off.
That's the difference. That's another big difference. We know when we got one right quick. These bitches, they delude themselves into believing like, man, you know what I mean? Like, this is real life. And it's like, nah, you know, I know reality is really like this, but shit, nigga caught a break. You hear me?
Right.
Yeah,
I got that off. And I'm like, oh, but that doesn't mean that now it's all dimes from now on. No. I understand that I got that off. Yeah. And that's it. So is there a way that we can, and I don't want to say convince them, but have women at least realize that this is a thing, and sometimes these men that they really want don't have the best intentions, and you can't make them?
There's no way to train a woman to pick a better man, because the way women navigate the world is through how they feel about shit. So you would have to try and train that woman after adolescence on how to not navigate the world strictly on how you feel about things. And the only person that could train her to do that is her father.
Winter is coming. And the wall is undefeated. The reality, like, we keep talking about this topic as if we haven't all experienced the reality and truth of how hard it is to change anybody's mind about most things. Most of us, men and women, go off of experience in terms of that's just the reality of it. Yes, it's true. There are going to be some men and some women that learn from their mistakes and adapt and grow and move on. A huge percentage of them are not. Like, they're just that. When you say men are being dishonest, facts, true. I've been one of those men. Like,
me too.
Right?
I can't throw it.
Right. So my view is that if we were born in another time in another culture where polygyny was more normalized, where it wasn't unusual for a man of means, of wealth, of status to have 1, 2, 3, 4 wives and or concubines, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. The issue is that when you live in modernity, where all the titles are removed and where women are trying to enforce monogamy, where I will break up with you and I'll divorce you and take you to court and get alimony and child support.
Right.
You've created a market where in the past and previous generations, they accounted for male sexuality, they accounted for male value, and they accounted for male promiscuity.
I like his approach. I'm gonna tell you why I like his approach, and it's not because it means more bitches. Well, it is kind of because it means more bitches, but not directly because it means more bitches. The reason why I like his approach is because it accounts for the male experience. My approach would be the father going back to helping women mate select. And so even if we're in a modern era where monogamy is the focal point, her ability to mate select is filtered through her father. That's how I would look at it.
Where they acknowledge that this existed, that women would sign up for it if he met certain markers. And now in modernity, you don't allow that. So you're taking men that are celebrities, athletes, some of the most desirable men in these given cities, plopping them into modern times, and are expecting them to act different than all men in almost all ancient civilizations throughout the history of time. Where else in any other culture was a man that was a top 1 or 5 or 10% man in the country required to be with one woman for the next 40 to 60 years of his life?
I like his perspective. Mine would be this though. This is just to try and throw a wrench in it. Wouldn't the sexual liberation be a response to that? Because it alleviates the responsibility of a man to take a woman on in marriage and allows everyone to kind of date freely. Now, if you make enough money, have enough resources, I honestly don't think that she would be willing to want to mess that up, even if you're dealing with multiple women. So it kind of still stands to reason that the man that has the ability to be of that level of prominence, if he just refrain from getting married, then he can have as many women as he wants. It's only in marriage that monogamous relationships rule. So it's like we gotta decide, is it the nuclear family way that we should take, or is it the men, wife plus concubine type of way? You know, it shows up differently in modernity.
For the record, do you think that it would work better if we were not forced into monogamy?
Yes. 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 And it's not even just speaking as a therapist. Let's just slow down with this logically.
But are you forced in monogamy if you refrain from marriage? That's the real question. As long as you don't get married, are you really forced into monogamy?
A lot of y'all that's going through the divorces, women specifically, if you're coming out too late, now you're competing. If you're in your 40s and you got divorced, you're now trying to compete with women that's in their 40s, 30s, and 20s with the small pool of men that you actually want. You're 40. You probably don't want a 20-year-old. You may not even want a 30-year-old. And a lot of the men that's at your age, if they also are making really good money, they may not be checking for you.
I got you. I'm gonna be the nigga for him. They will not be checking for you. They don't give a fuck about your 40-year-old ass. They want something younger, tighter, less bodies, less of a hard headache. They want a little thing that they can train up that's gonna get on their program. Your 40-year-old ass come with experience and problems. They don't want none of that shit.
So you've created, by the rampant increase of leaving, 70 to 80% of initiations of divorces, the single mother households, the trauma, the struggle to pair bond. When you factor all of these things in, a lot of these things were created because you were trying to take an external law and external consequences to change men's nature.
He right though, but what he not accounting for in my like synopsis of the whole thing is he's not accounting for women's nature. It's women's nature to want to change a man's nature, but the man that don't change is the one that she attracted to. It's called a shit test.
They're gonna get you for that one.
That's fine. That's fine. But what I will say is this: not all men qualify for that privilege.
Right.
And in the past, that was the case. When women hear me and Miss Ali and other figures speak on the issue about polygyny, I always ask the question: if you had to choose between giving one man 20 chances or 20 men one chance, which would you choose? A lot of women's lifestyles and their actions, if you ask them straight out, I don't tolerate cheating. First or second time, I'm done.
I'm gonna tell you why though, because that's where they're told that their power lies, so they could be on par with men. My power lies in how many chances I can give a man, because I could select. That's the lie that they've been told. But they don't understand that a man is gonna need more than one chance. You're gonna have to rock with that nigga. That's why how y'all marry each other. If you try and do the same thing that men do and select the way men select, you're actually not tapping into your actual feminine power. You're tapping into some other shit that don't fit you.
Okay, you keep racking up the body count. None of these guys are paying dowries. None of these men are having to meet your family, stand before God, stand before the church or some religious ceremony. They don't have to do any of these things. Y'all are giving them access.
That's because they don't understand where their actual power lie. They've been convinced and tricked into thinking that they're men.
You're giving them access to these things, and then you're shocked when most of the men that y'all want don't want marriage. You're leaving the ones that do marry you because they cheated, and the ones that can't cheat because nobody wants them, you don't want them.
It's called girl math. Do your research.
This is the market you created. The reason why these previous generations, especially 300, 400, 500 plus years ago, was probably not going through these things is because they accounted for what the issues are you're focusing on now. The reality is this was an interesting social experiment. There was some great pros and some great cons. And whether the state recognizes it or not, a lot of y'all are already sharing anyway. You're sharing when you're not married to your baby daddy and he dating somebody else. You're sharing his time, you're sharing his energy, you're sharing his resources.
Exactly.
You're sharing a lot. Okay, like this is why I'm not gonna make it long on the internet. Aren't they sharing?
Listen, you don't have to tell me. I know they share.
First of all, you already sharing. So that
right there is the conundrum, because their perceived idea of power is them being able to choose, but what they don't account for is their nature. Their nature is to not want to have multiple bodies. You have to stretch yourself to want to be that version of yourself as a woman. Your nature is to want to lock in and be with one man. But if you divorce that nature, like feminism has taught you, then you start operating outside of your purpose and outside of your power, and then you find yourself doing the one thing that you actually didn't want. It's crazy, man.
Thing that was considered a privilege for a man to be able to do something like that, you're allowing men to be able to have options with children and relationships and dating and sex without giving you marriage.
Now, this is why I get a little confused at, because if you're advocating for that, for them to require those type of things, then you're ultimately advocating for monogamy. This does not lead to polygamy. If she feels as though she is sexually liberated, then that is the breeding ground for polygamy. Not in the traditional sense where it's understood through marriage and law, but in the literal sense, because there's not really a level of requirement there. And so you can be with multiple women at the same time without having to actually lock in with any of them.
And I'm like, the guys who in the past would have been called dukes, earls, right, princes, kings, are still running through the women. They just don't have to reap the consequences of getting married or getting remarried.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Right.
So y'all can keep pushing this enforced monogamy thing. That's why men are doing MGTOW, men going their own way. You have men that are opting out of no longer going to clubs. They're no longer pursuing women. They're not asking them out at work anymore. They're not pursuing them at the gym. A lot of these men.
What are they doing?
A lot of these men are prioritizing themselves in terms of happiness and hobbies and keeping themselves busy.
But what are they doing?
They will outsource the sex on a transactional basis.
Oh, okay.
They will go overseas once a season.
passportbros?
Yeah, like
basically men are doing what men do, and they're adapting to the dating market. All women gotta do is put out the bait or whatever it's gonna be, and men gonna adapt to that. You might catch a few of them hook, line, and sinker in the early days of it, but eventually men are gonna adapt to it, and they're gonna climb right back on top. This is what they're experiencing right now.
What they're learning and adapting to is the market where women in the West have prioritized their happiness over family, their happiness over marriage.
So I want to ask you about that because a little earlier we spoke about the that there were people from Europe, people from South Africa, everywhere else. Mm-hmm. There's many people who believe that this problem is only here. But I think it's spreading now.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that the state is probably better in some instances, but I think that this ideology, this feminism, is absolutely spreading. Would you explain to those who might be wondering about getting a passport, if that's the thing to do? Like, what do you know about what's going on elsewhere?
Feminism is a mind virus, and just like any virus, you're gonna have to weather the storm, and you're gonna have to try your best to fight the symptoms. It's gonna spread everywhere. It starts at developed countries, and then it slowly trickles into undeveloped countries, but you're gonna have to weather the storm. That's just what it is.
So not all men's reasons and justifications for doing this is even the same. You have men who can get women here and choose to do it over there because it's just literally cheaper. It's cheaper to buy a home. There's less red tape. There's less back and forth. There's more understanding of traditional roles.
And the women are way, way, way badder. You go over to DR, I got partners that'll tell you, coldest woman you see on the planet, dog. And it's cheaper. It's a win-win. That's why.
So they're like, yeah, I can get women here, but I got to deal with the alimony, the family court, the drama, the social media, the trying to live like Cardi B and this person that. Like, they're like, I can just go to another spot where she ain't even got a social media page. Like, that's not even like a thing. And life is just easier and simpler for them. Then there's also other men who they can't get the women here. So now they have to take their money and their lack of charisma, their lack of fashion, their lack of confidence and go abroad where women are seeing dollar signs above their head and they both understand what it is. The difference is that over there, they still know it's transactional, but they're nicer.
Right.
They're still more feminine. And then you'll have men, like I said before, with MGTOW, men going their own way. There are men who are blackpilled and just simply checking out. They're like...
For those of you who don't know, black pill is this new term where you've accepted female nature for what it is and you think that the ship is sinking. You have accepted your fate. You're on a Titanic and you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and listen to the orchestra as this thing totally goes down into the Pacific. That's what black pill is.
Yeah, black
and their lens, and this is super duper important to all the women who are confused at why men aren't pursuing them as much anymore, when they're doing the speed dating things and when all the women arrive, there's no men that's showing up to these events. Like, something's going on. And I would argue this. It's just a hypothesis. And again, you're right. I'm gonna keep getting killed when I say this. If you owned a store and none of the customers was coming to buy your products, you don't get to say the problem is the customers. The product, the problem is the product. The problem is what's being presented to the public and the public feeling that what's being presented isn't worth what the price tag is.
But you want to know what his problem is? He didn't incorporate girl math inside of his equation because how she feel about the product is all that really matters. Thank you.
So if they're seeing other women, so they don't hate women if they're going to other women.
But as a woman, if you hate her as a woman, then you hate all women because I'm all there is. The sun shines and sets on my ass.
Right?
Correct.
Whoa. So why are they going to the store across the street and not your store? The lack of self-reflection. It's easier to say it's the men and it's only the men that's the problem and not saying, yeah, there's things that men need to work on. But when you refuse to look introspectively and you say the reason for the dating market is just only men not measuring up and leveling up, what version of you have you turned into that people will go hundreds or thousands of miles away to replace you? It's just a thought. Well, I wonder if the store owner or the person who has all these products that aren't coming off the shelf is going to reevaluate. Am I estimating the value of these products too high?
Right.
Do I need to switch up my branding? Do I need to evaluate if I'm overestimating what it is that I'm bringing to the table and offering to the public? Why is my store about to close down and I'm about to hit the wall and lose my business versus adjusting to what the customers want? If you are a woman who always gets attention from men because you're a woman and you're beautiful and you're not ending up with the type of caliber of men you want, I wonder if there's something that you're presenting there's something that you're presenting to them of how they're interpreting your behavior, your words, and your actions that's not matching how you're feeling and thinking you are.
Women are 100% feelings based. That's just been their nature. It's always going to be their nature. It's going to remain their nature. It's the gift and the curse that comes with them being women. And so they have to feel incentivized to make changes. If they don't have any incentive to make a change, then they won't. They have to feel the pain. And what helps is now that men have a microphone to actually put out content to combat some of the bullshit that the media puts out about men and women, they're able to make a more informed decision. But to expect them to get to a logical place about things, that's a hard sell. It's always going to be feeling based. It may have a sprinkle of logic on it, but mostly it's going to be how they feel about it. And a part of it is just the nature of who they are.
Everybody shut the fuck up. Hey, shut the fuck up. Let me tell you something right now.
If you made it this far, check out the video we just did with Ask a Brother Podcast and the Crimson Cure discussing how the sexual liberation has totally destroyed the black community. Check it out.